my family originated, at least as far as we can trace, from an area of the former Russian Empire, which is now in the country of Belarus. Our family, my great-grandfather and his family, we believe had been there for a couple of hundred years until the early 1900s. My great-grandfather and his family were dirt poor, lived in a hovel in a tiny townlet of Antipol. They're basically subsistence farmers and traders. Lots of children, some of whom survived into adulthood, some of whom did not. In the late 1800s, early 1900s, the Tsarist regime made it a point of public policy to ramp up persecution of Jewish people living in what was called the Pale of Settlement. This took the form of organized attacks by state-sponsored troops, the Cossacks and so forth, as well as encouraged and unpunished attacks by gangs and other rabble-rousers. So the atmosphere of anti-Semitism was extremely strong. My grandfather, Sam, in fact, as a child, lost an eye in one of these attacks. Not too long thereafter, my great-grandfather, his name was Wolf, made the decision that there was no real viable future for them in that part of the world. And so in 1903, he took passage, he scraped up enough money to take passage on a ship to the United States, where he followed his older brother. So in 1924, the Exclusion Act of those years essentially barred Catholics from Southern Europe and from Ireland and Jews from the Russian Empire. Accordingly, the 74 members of our family that had decided earlier not to come to the United States or were unable to go, when war broke out in Europe in the late 1930s, they were unable to come to the United States. We couldn't bring them over. And in our family, there were 74 members that we could trace. None of them survived the war. They were all wiped out, murdered, exterminated. There had been 5,000 Jews in the town of Antipol at its height. At the start of World War II, there were 2,000. After the war, there were 74 who survived. So it's not a theoretical question, what would have happened to the family? It's a real question about what did happen to the family. And the answer is they were all murdered. They had no place to go, nobody would take them.